Night, late dry season. On the fringes of Sal Forest in central India, heat still radiates from the ground, rising in slow currents that bend the starlight. The air smells of dust, resin, and old leaves. A distant owl calls once, then falls silent. In the understory, where thorn and shadow weave together, a Bengal tiger moves along a narrow game trail, its shoulders rolling with quiet precision. Hunger has narrowed its focus. For 3 nights it has hunted without success. Near a fallen log, another animal feeds. An Indian crested porcupine stands broadside to the darkness, claws brace against the wood as its chisel-like incisors strip bark rich in minerals. Its hearing is acute, its sense of smell sharper still. It knows the forest is never empty. Along its back, thousands of modified hairs, quills hardened into barbed spears, rest angled toward the canopy. The tiger sees only a medium-sized herbivore, slow and grounded. It lowers its head and advances. In this landscape, power is not measured by size alone. Some defenses do not chase, do not roar, do not threaten until the final second. They simply wait for contact. The Indian crested porcupine, Hystrix indica, is among the largest rodents in the world, a nocturnal herbivore distributed across South Asia and parts of the Middle East. Adults can exceed 18 kilograms, their bodies compact and heavily muscled beneath a mantle of specialized quills that may reach over 30 centimeters in length. These quills are not thrown, as folklore often claims, but attach easily on contact, embedding into skin with microscopic backward-facing barbs. Field studies across India, Nepal, and Pakistan have documented quills penetrating muscle, joints, and even bone in large predators, including leopards, lions, and tigers. Once lodged, they migrate deeper through normal movement, carrying bacteria that frequently lead to infection. Porcupines occupy a paradoxical niche in the ecosystem. They are primary consumers, feeding on roots, tubers, bark, fallen fruit, and occasionally carrion, yet they exist largely without the vigilance typical of prey species. Their evolutionary strategy favors armor over escape. When threatened, they raise their quills, inflate their body to appear larger, and produce a low rattling sound by vibrating hollow tail quills, a warning evolved specifically for large mammalian predators. Only when contact becomes unavoidable do they reverse, driving the quills backward with explosive force powered by strong hind limbs. The Bengal tiger, Panthera tigris, by contrast, represents the apex of predatory specialization in the Asian forests. Solitary, territorial, and capable of bringing down prey many times its own weight, it relies on stealth, explosive acceleration, and a killing bite to the throat. Its typical prey, deer, wild boar, gar, are animals built for flight, not confrontation. Evolution has not prepared the tiger for prey that fights by standing still. Documented encounters between tigers and porcupines reveal a pattern shaped by hunger. Healthy adult tigers generally avoid porcupines after early negative experiences. However, subadult tigers learning to hunt, aging individuals with worn teeth, or injured animals unable to pursue faster prey may attempt the attack. Wildlife biologists have recorded cases where such attempts ended fatally for the tiger weeks or months later, as infected quill wounds prevented normal hunting. In necropsies of deceased tigers in India's protected reserves, porcupine quills have been found embedded in skulls, chests, and forelimbs, silent evidence of confrontation that did not end at the moment of impact. Across the dry forests and scrublands of the Indian subcontinent, the porcupine's influence extends far beyond its solitary, nocturnal life. By excavating for roots and tubers, it turns over soil, redistributes nutrients, and creates microhabitats later used by insects, reptiles, and small mammals. Abandoned burrows, often dug beneath rocky outcrops or tree roots, become shelter for species ranging from jackals to pythons. In this way, a slow-moving herbivore quietly engineers parts of the ecosystem, shaping landscapes without ever dominating them. Its most significant ecological role, however, emerges indirectly through its interactions with predators. In regions where large carnivores persist, porcupines function as a high-risk food source, an option of last resort when environmental pressures intensify. Drought, prey depletion, territorial displacement, or injury can push even dominant hunters toward dangerous decisions. Long-term monitoring in reserves such as Ranthambore National Park and Kanha National Park has shown that porcupine attacks on tigers occur most often during periods of ecological stress, when the balance between predator and prey begins to fracture. For the tiger, survival depends on efficiency. A single serious wound can compromise its ability to stalk, sprint, or grapple, actions essential for subduing large ungulates. Unlike pack hunters, a tiger cannot rely on others if injured. Infection, reduced mobility, and starvation become intertwined risks. In several documented cases, injured tigers shifted toward livestock predation or scavenging, behaviors that increase conflict with humans and often end in the animal's death. Thus, a brief encounter with a porcupine can ripple outward, altering not only one predator's fate, but also the stability of territories and the pressures placed on surrounding wildlife. Evolution has therefore produced a rare equilibrium, a herbivore that deters apex predators not through speed, venom, or size, but through a defense so costly that it reshapes predator behavior across generations. Young tigers learn caution by observing adults' avoidance. Experienced individuals recognize the silhouette and scent of a porcupine and simply pass by, conserving energy for safer prey. In this way, the porcupine survival strategy influences the decision-making of one of Earth's most formidable hunters. Here, nature reveals a pattern repeated across ecosystems. Dominance is conditional. The food chain is not a ladder but a web of calculated risks, where even the strongest animals navigate boundaries set by anatomy, experience, and circumstance. In the silent arithmetic of survival, the porcupine does not defeat predators through aggression. It endures by making the cost of attack greater than the value of the meal. Survival for the Indian crested porcupine is built on a principle rare among mammals its size. It does not rely on distance from danger, but on proximity to it. When threatened, fleeing will expose its vulnerable head and abdomen. Instead, it turns, presenting the armored back while keeping the delicate face angled away. This reversal is not panic but precision, a behavior refined over millions of years. Observations from nocturnal field studies show that porcupines often stand their ground even as large predators circle, tracking movement through sound and ground vibration. The raised quills create an illusion of greater size, but more importantly, they form a dense lattice that prevents a clean bite. For a predator accustomed to throat holds and suffocation kills, there is no safe grip. The tiger's hunting strategy, perfected for ambush, becomes a liability in such encounters. Its attack depends on committing fully, a powerful forelimb strike, followed by jaws closing around the neck. Against the porcupine, that commitment leads directly into the defensive zone. Biologists examining failed predation attempts have noted quills embedded deep in the forelimbs and chest, indicating the tiger struck from the front or side, unaware of how rapidly the porcupine could pivot. In the seconds after impact, the predator's own momentum drives the quills deeper. Pain responses vary. Some tigers retreat immediately, while others continue striking, compounding the injury. The encounter rarely lasts long, yet its consequences unfold slowly in the weeks that follow. Another angle emerges in the porcupine's sensory world. Though its eyesight is limited, its hearing detects low-frequency sounds of footfalls, and its olfactory system interprets scent trails layered across the forest floor. This allows it to anticipate approach long before visual confirmation. Camera trap footage has recorded porcupines freezing, quills partially raised, minutes before a predator enters the frame, a silent readiness rather than a reactive defense. The rattling of tail quills, often mistaken for a threat display, functions primarily as a final warning, an acoustic signal that advertises the danger of contact. Predators adhere to avoid injury. Those that ignore it learn through experience, if they survive. From the tiger's perspective, such prey represents an anomaly in the calculus of energy. A successful hunt must yield more calories than it costs to obtain. Injuries invert that equation. Studies of tiger energetics suggest that even minor impairments reduce hunting success dramatically, forcing longer travel distances and increased exposure to rival tigers. Thus, the porcupine exerts influence not through population size or predation pressure, but by introducing uncertainty into the predator's otherwise efficient system. A further dimension of this encounter lies in age and experience. Young dispersing tigers, newly independent from their mothers, face a steep learning curve in territories already occupied by stronger adults. They must experiment with unfamiliar prey while avoiding direct confrontation with rivals. It is among these inexperienced hunters that porcupine attacks occur most frequently. Without the caution shaped by prior injury or observation, a subadult tiger may interpret the slow movement and ground-feeding posture as vulnerability. Long-term monitoring has shown that individuals surviving such encounters often carry permanent reminders, quills embedded in bone, scar tissue restricting limb movement, or damaged eyes. Those that do not survive are rarely witnessed. Their decline unfolds quietly as starvation or infection takes hold. The porcupine's role as a parent introduces another perspective. Unlike many rodents, it forms stable monogamous pairs and raises offspring cooperatively in shared burrows. Young porcupets are born with soft quills that harden within days, remaining underground for weeks until their defenses are functional. Adults therefore display heightened vigilance around den sites, sometimes confronting predators more aggressively than usual. Researchers have documented instances of porcupines advancing toward leopards and wolves near burrow entrances, quills fully erected, prioritizing deterrence over escape. This defensive confidence stems not from aggression, but from the knowledge that their anatomy provides a rare advantage in close quarters. Rival predators also shape the dynamic. Leopards, does, and wolves coexist within the same landscapes as tigers, each with different hunting styles and risk tolerances. Leopards, more agile and lighter, occasionally succeed in killing porcupines by targeting the unprotected face, though injuries are still common. Pack hunters such as does may harass a porcupine from multiple angles, attempting to exhaust it. Yet even coordinated attacks can end abruptly when individuals are struck. The porcupine, solitary and slow, becomes a focal point where diverse predatory strategies converge, and often fail. In this convergence, nature reveals its moral neutrality. There is no triumph in the porcupine's defense, no humiliation in the predator's retreat. Each animal operates within constraints imposed by anatomy, energy, and environment. The forest does not favor one over the other. It simply records outcomes. What appears as a small, heavily armed herbivore resisting an army of predators is, in ecological terms, a series of isolated decisions made by hungry animals facing uncertain rewards. Survival belongs not to the fiercest, but to the one whose adaptations best match the moment. The confrontation begins without spectacle. Shortly after midnight, the tiger closes a final distance in a low advance, using a shallow depression in the ground as cover. The porcupine has already sensed a disturbance. Its feeding has stopped, head lifted slightly, body angled so the hindquarters face the approaching sound. Quills rise in a slow wave, each one separating from the next until the animal appears nearly twice its normal size. The tail lifts and vibrates, releasing a dry, rattling hiss that carries through the still air, a signal evolved for this precise moment. The tiger circles, seeking an opening. From behind, the prey offers no throat, no spine exposed for a killing bite. The predator shifts to the flank, muscles tightening for a controlled strike intended to flip the animal onto its vulnerable underside. When it lunges, the porcupine pivots with startling speed, reversing into the attack. Contact lasts less than a second. A forepaw strikes quills instead of flesh. Momentum drives the tiger forward into a dense barrier of barbed shafts. The predator recoils instantly, shaking its paw, but several quills remain embedded deep in the soft tissue between toes and along the lower leg. Pain alters behavior in unpredictable ways. Rather than retreating immediately, the tiger swipes again, this time from a greater distance, attempting to disable prey. The porcupine responds with another backward surge, hind limbs pushing against the earth with explosive force. More quills penetrate, chest, shoulder, the side of the muzzle. The rattling intensifies, not as threat, but as involuntary vibration from the animal's exertion. Dust rises around them, briefly obscuring shapes in the dark. Within minutes, the encounter ends. The tiger withdraws, breathing hard, licking at wounds it cannot easily reach. The porcupine remains motionless, quills still raised, waiting for vibrations that signal true departure. No pursuit follows. In the economy of the wild, the exchange is already decided. One animal carries away a minor loss of quills that will regrow. The other carries injuries that may define the coming weeks of its life. By dawn, the forest begins to reveal the cost of the night's encounter. The tiger has moved less than a kilometer, choosing dense cover where it can rest without disturbance. Each step is measured, quills embedded in the forelimb flex with muscle movement, driving deeper with every shift of weight. One is lodged near a joint, restricting extension of the paw. Another protrudes from the chest, rising and falling with each breath. The predator grooms obsessively, teeth scraping against hardened keratin, but the barbs resist removal. Attempts to bite them free only break the exposed tips, leaving the deeper fragments buried. Over the following days, the injury reshapes behavior. The tiger abandons long patrols and reduces scent marking, conserving energy. Hunting attempts become tentative and brief. A chase that once ended in a decisive tackle now falters, after few strides, as pain radiates through the limb. Opportunistic feeding replaces active predation, scavenging old kills, targeting smaller animals, drinking more frequently as fever develops. Camera trap sequences from similar documented cases show injured tigers moving during cooler hours, avoiding terrain that requires jumping or climbing. The forest continues its rhythms around them, indifferent to the predator's decline. Inside the wounds, microscopic processes unfold. Bacteria introduced by the quills multiply in oxygen-poor tissue, triggering inflammation and infection. Swelling further limits mobility, creating a feedback loop in which reduced hunting success leads to malnutrition, slowing recovery. In extreme cases recorded by wildlife veterinarians, quills have penetrated the oral cavity or nasal passages, impairing the senses essential for stalking prey. The tiger's greatest assets, strength, stealth, precision, erode not through combat, but through the body's inability to heal while maintaining the demands of survival. Weeks later, outcomes diverge. Some tigers recover partially as superficial quills are shed or expelled through abscesses. Others continue a gradual decline, eventually displaced by rivals or succumbing to starvation. The porcupine, meanwhile, resumes its nightly foraging, its missing quills replaced over successive moults. It leaves no awareness of the chain of consequences set in motion. In evolutionary terms, the encounter was not a battle but a filtering event, a test that only some predators pass. In the weeks that follow, the forest subtly reorganizes around the tiger's altered presence. Territories are not fixed lines, but living agreements maintained through scent, sound, and patrol. As the injured tiger reduces its movements, gaps appear along its borders. Neighboring tigers probe these absences cautiously, advancing scent marks a few meters at a time, testing whether resistance remains. Such incursions rarely lead to immediate confrontation. They are incremental shifts, the slow redrawing of a map written in pheromones and memory. For prey species, this change can bring temporary relief in some areas and increase pressure in others, redistributing the risk of predation across the landscape. The physical toll on the tiger becomes visible. Muscle mass diminishes along the shoulders and haunches, a consequence of reduced hunting success and chronic infection. Limping gaits captured on camera traps reveal compensation patterns. Weight transfer to the uninjured limbs, spine flexing asymmetrically to avoid jarring impacts. These adaptations allow continued movement but accelerate fatigue. Studies of injured large carnivores show that such compensatory mechanics often lead to secondary injuries, compounding the original damage. The predator that once governed its domain through strength now survives through conservation effort. Scavengers begin to play a more prominent role. Vultures circling above, jackals trailing at a distance, and smaller carnivores monitoring the tiger's kills all respond to signs of weakness. In ecosystems where competition is constant, vulnerability becomes a resource for others. Yet the tiger's presence still commands caution. Even injured, it retains formidable power at close range. This tension creates a shifting hierarchy in which no participant fully dominates. The forest accommodates decline without ceremony. For the porcupine, consequences are quieter but no less significant. Having lost a portion of its quill coat during the encounter, it spends more time near its burrow, while replacements grow. Quill regeneration requires protein and minerals, prompting increased foraging on calcium-rich bones and bark. Such feeding behavior contributes to nutrient cycling, redistributing elements across the forest floor. The defensive system that protected it now demands replenishment, linking survival to the broader ecological web. As months pass, the trajectory of the injured tiger settles into one of two paths observed repeatedly in long-term field research. If infection subsides and mobility improves, the animal may reclaim portions of its territory, though often at a reduced range. Its hunting strategy shifts permanently towards smaller, less dangerous prey, cheetah fawns, langurs, or carrion when available, a pragmatic adjustment that lowers risk but also reduces influence over large herbivore populations. Such tigers become quieter presences in the ecosystem, exerting pressure without the sweeping dominance of their prime years. If recovery does not occur, displacement becomes inevitable. A stronger rival eventually advances far enough to trigger direct confrontation or forced withdrawal. Displaced tigers enter marginal habitats at the edges of forests, where human settlements, livestock, and fragmented cover create new hazards. Wildlife records across the subcontinent show that many human-tiger conflicts involve individuals previously weakened by injury, age, or disease. In this way, a single defensive encounter with a porcupine can initiate a chain of events extending far beyond the forest's interior, reshaping the interface between wildlife and people. The porcupine continues its life largely unchanged, bound to cycles of feeding, burrow maintenance, and reproduction. Its longevity, often exceeding a decade in the wild, allows it to outlast many predators that once threatened it. Offspring disperse to establish new burrows, carrying the same evolutionary inheritance of passive but formidable defense. Predators encountering these young animals face the same calculation as before, guided partly by instinct, partly by learned caution embedded within the population over generations. Ecologically, such interactions reinforce a balance defined not by victory or defeat, but by limits. Apex predators regulate herbivore numbers, shaping vegetation patterns and nutrient flow. Defensive herbivores like the porcupine, in turn, impose boundaries on predation, preventing unchecked dominance by any single hunter. The system endures through these constraints, each species influencing the others without intention or awareness. In the quiet accounting of nature, no monument marks the encounter. There is only continuation, altered territories, healed or failing bodies, new individuals inheriting the landscape. The forest absorbs a story and moves forward, its equilibrium maintained by countless unseen exchanges between strength and vulnerability. Night returns to the forest with the same impartial rhythm it has carried for millennia. The porcupine emerges from its burrow, quills fully restored, moving through shadows without haste, guided by scent and the low rustle of dry leaves. The tiger, scarred and wary, follows a separate path, every step measured, every decision shaped by memory of pain. Neither has acted with malice. Neither has sought triumph. Survival is neither heroic nor cruel. It is precise, costly, and indifferent. In this tableau, the story of a porcupine defending itself against one of the world's most formidable predators becomes a meditation on balance. Nature does not favor the strong blindly, nor does it reward the clever merely for cunning. It responds to adaptation, to the capacity of an organism to make the most of its form, its senses, and its limits. Quill and claw, patience and calculation, meet in a moment of tension that echoes far beyond the instant of contact. The forest continues. Predators hunt, herbivores forage. Young are born, old die. The tiger limps past fallen branches. The porcupine gnaws on roots. Each life intersects without narrative, without judgment. Yet within these silent interactions lie profound truths. Even the smallest offenses can reshape destinies. The cost of aggression is written in flesh. And equilibrium is maintained not by conquest, but by restraint, by endurance, by the quiet mathematics of survival. Here, in the shadows of Sal and Thorn, the forest teaches its ultimate lesson. Life persists not because it is heroic, but because it is relentless, measured, and exquisitely attuned to the harsh geometry of risk and reward. The porcupine lives, the tiger endures, and the ecosystem endures beyond both, impartial, precise, and eternal.